So, Richard, the gangland suspects who were arrested in Dubai have been basically dumped out of the country. Now, they haven't been extradited, but they've been deported as far as we're aware.
Yeah, according to what we know, sometime last Sunday, they'd spent a small amount of time, 12, 14 days in custody, which obviously wouldn't have been too pleasant. But they were unexpectedly turfed out Sunday morning. No charges, no extradition, but told in no uncertain terms to leave the UAE and never return.
And is this all five of the men, as far as we know, who are obviously Ross McGill, Steven Lyons, and Stephen Jameson, and Stephen Larwood? Yeah, and a fifth.
It's four of them. There was this mystery fifth individual, reportedly to be a pal of Ross McGill's, who was from Edinburgh, but identification was never confirmed with him. But the other four have left the UAE.
So again, you come back to this obscure legal process that goes on in Dubai, in the UAE. There was a very notorious Australian criminal figure, a guy called Angelo Pandelli, who was also linked to the Kinahans. And again, he was just deported summarily just a few months ago. I think it was in September. Where I don't know if they get to appeal this, is there any documents, or do they just tell you it's time to get out? Again, that sort of information is very hard to come by.
I was told they were just informed you are leaving, no questions. They were allowed to make a phone call to arrange travel, and that was it. There's no appeal. There's no legal process. They were just told.
So the rumours certainly around, obviously the two most significant figures there are Ross McGill and Steven Lyons. Ross Miami McGill, as people will know, has sort of shot to the top of the Scottish organised crime, originally a Rangers ultra in his early 30s, and has kind of come out of nowhere. And of course his name has become so notorious because he's suspected of arranging a lot of the violence that has been seen on the streets of Scotland over the last few months. Now, the rumours seem to be going about that he might have been chosen to go to South America when he was told he was leaving. He certainly hasn't reappeared in Scotland anyway.
No, he hasn't reappeared here. There are rumours he's gone to Brazil, where other Scottish underworld figures, James White, the Gillespie brothers, they went to Brazil. Nothing has been confirmed. It's just rumours. There was a rumour that he may have gone to the Balkans, or he may have gone to Morocco, but nobody is sure where he is at the moment. The other thing is, obviously, will he get into certain places?
Yes, and they'd have to accept him. Obviously, it's even more complicated post-Brexit, because if you're an EU citizen, you could really go anywhere in the EU. They can't really stop you. It might be more complex post-Brexit. So that connection with organised crime between Scotland and Brazil is slightly unusual one, but as you said, the Don White, as he's called, he was a very significant figure, and he ultimately was extradited from Brazil back to Scotland. But he's one of the more prominent drug traffickers, really, in Scotland in recent years.
Yeah, he was one of the ones who decided, as Curtis Warren did 30 odd years ago, that he would cut out the middleman and he would deal direct with the South Americans. And either he or senior associates would travel to South America to organise the deals, and White was seemingly very, very good at it. Also spoke the language very well. And this elevated White very, very high up in the underworld structure.
Now, the Gillespie brothers, who also ended up over there, they're they've disappeared off the radar, but it's believed they've come to a bad end. It's not believed they're in hiding at this point.
No, the word has been, there's never been any confirmation either from the Foreign Office or Police Scotland or the NCA, but the word is that they set up in a northern city called Fortaleza, which looks quite a beach resort. And initially they fitted in quite well with the local scene. But then the word is that they crossed a local drugs cartel. And as a result of this, were kidnapped and subsequently murdered and their bodies disposed of. Now, this has never been confirmed, but it's one of those stories that now has almost embedded itself in reality.
And where did the brothers, their names are again the
James and Barry.
James and Barry, and they they were young guys again. Were they from the Glasgow or Edinburgh area?
They were from a place called Rutherglen, South Lanarkshire, just outside of Glasgow. And
they went over. They were young, another part of another younger generation, I suppose, who sort of.
Well, they made a name for themselves in and around Greater Glasgow, and then they became bigger and more influential. They apparently, when the heat came on them in Scotland, they went out to the Netherlands and then down to Spain. But when they were in southern Spain, one of the brothers was reported to have a fallout with a high-ranking member of the Kinahans, and the brothers were told it would be best if you left very, very quickly. And so from there, they went across to Brazil and set up in Brazil.
So the Steven Lyons, of course, like you mentioned, he's that long-term connection with the Kinahans, and he's the other very significant figure. I mean, he would obviously have a big network back in Scotland, but there's no talk of him. The likelihood of him reappearing in Scotland is zero, really, at this stage. Do we know if there's charges facing any of these guys, or is it still at an investigative stage?
Regarding McGill, he fled when he was on bail. So for charges. Regarding Steven Lyons, there's nothing on Steven Lyons. No charges, not wanted with anything. So there's no reason, theoretically, why he wouldn't come back here. But understandably, he won't. But no, there's nothing. There are other charges relating to a couple of the others, but they haven't been highlighted. But certainly regarding Steven Lyons, there's nothing on him at all.
So how do you think this will all play out in what's going on in Scotland? Just because it has been a very bloody year. There's been obviously 2 members of the Lyons faction shot dead in Spain, and just a series of, arson attacks, shootings, physical assaults all through Scotland. Things have sort of quietened down as the police have got on top of it. Is this likely to change the dynamic of that? Certainly in terms of McGill, who was suspected of directing a lot of it, will be in a very different circumstance than he was.
We've got a vacuum at the moment, and it depends what happens regarding McGill, where he ends up, if he gets lifted. At the moment, it's a bit of a stalemate. You've got Mark Richardson still inside. There hasn't been any activity from either side for a number of weeks. The number of arrests, almost 70 in relation to Operation Portalage, which is the investigation into this gang war. So it's a stalemate at the moment. We just wait and see who blinks first.
Yeah, and it's interesting, these deportation orders, and I do wonder if this is going to become a bigger feature of, well, we don't even know if it's an order, or do you just get a tap on the shoulder and get out for your own good. I wonder, is this a strategy that the officials in the UAE are going to adopt, where before, at least a number of years ago, they used to wait for an extradition request, and then they wouldn't deal with that quickly. But there still seems to be a change in culture in Dubai, that they don't want this bad publicity. And I do wonder if the golden age of criminality in Dubai is beginning to come to an end.
I think there's been a change in attitude from the authorities. Now, whilst no one has been charged here, the fact that they've just kicked them out and told them never to return it appears to me that it's a case of we're not an easy touch anymore. It used to be you can come here and do what you want. It didn't impact upon our country or its population, but it's not good publicity for them. And so I think now you've seen that they've managed to get rid of these individuals without really due legal process. They just said, get out. And they're not going to argue.
No, they're not going to argue, and you wouldn't. I'd say a couple of weeks in a prison in Dubai would make you less inclined to argue than ever. Well, thanks, Richard, and no doubt we'll be coming back to it again, because it's a story that hasn't come to an end, to say the least.
Thanks very much, Niall. You take care.
You too, Richard. Thanks.
Thanks.